Well, hello everybody. I'm here again to do a SIBN committee interviews for a SIBN committee member. Delighted to have Colin Murphy with us today. Colin Murphy is a very active member of the SIBN committee, I would say. He's one of the more active members involved in a lot of our initiatives. And I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with Colin about his involvement and the history of his membership of the committee in SIBN. So Colin, look, welcome. Great to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Paul. Looking forward to the chat.
Great, yeah, likewise. So I suppose the first question is, what's the ship about, Colin, behind you? Where does that come from? Where's the history?
Oh, that's a Spanish galleon that my brother sent to me many years ago from Thailand. And it was a wedding present. And it's traveled around the world with me ever since. And so far managed to keep it intact. And it's a nice decoration having the background, as you can see.
Did you have to assemble that yourself, or did it come assembled?
Came in a big box.
Okay, looks great. Wonderful sort of talking piece. Well done. Can you just tell me about how you came to be located in Spain, Colin? What's the story behind that?
Well, it's a well-worn path that many people have taken, which was I met a beautiful Spanish girl in university. We were both in Dublin at the time. This would have been more than 20 years ago now, Christina. So we were students doing a master's degree in UCD, and we were also flatmates at the time. And we just kind of fell in love over the summer of 2002. And even though she went back to Madrid after that, and I went to London for 3 years, we kept the relationship going. And then I moved to Madrid at the beginning of 2006, and we got married in 2008.
Brilliant. As you say, this is the story behind many Irish person being located in Madrid, right, or in Spain.
It is, yeah, it really is.
Great. And what about your career? Kind of, you've had some international experience in London, now in Spain. Tell me about your career. Well, like, how did you build that career where you were traveling so much?
Yeah, so kind of a meandering career. I've basically been a full-time property investor since my mid-20s. You know, I'm in my mid-40s now, and I started out in London, as I just mentioned. I was selling advertising space in real estate magazines and showroom space for real estate exhibitions. Some people might remember there used to be a lot of trade shows and property magazines back in 2003, 4, 5 during the boom. And so I did that for a few years and got to travel around the world meeting builders and real estate agents and currency experts, and going to like 20 shows a year. Was real work hard, play hard introduction to it, and a good place to be in your mid-20s. And then kind of towards the peak of the boom, I opened an office in Dublin, selling real estate in emerging markets like Eastern Europe and Central and South America, where I divided my time between here in Madrid and Dublin, kind of 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And we did great doing that for a few years before the 2008 crisis just wiped us out. Sometime between March 08, when Bear Stearns collapsed, and September 08, when Lehman Brothers went belly up, the business model just went completely south, and had to fire everybody, close the office, and figure out what I wanted to do next. And then in 2009, I set up a company called Torcana with 2 others, and we were selling real estate in Florida. You know, the thinking being was that the prices in Florida had kind of fallen by like 60-70%. So we started selling these kind of apartments in and around Orlando to British and Irish buyers. Again, I was based here in Madrid for the most part, traveling over to Florida every 2 or 3 months. My business partners eventually moved over there full time in 2010. And so we're kind of acting as an international marketing agent, selling stuff to British and Irish buyers. And then a few years after that, around 2014, we pivoted and just started buying our own houses and renovating them, and kept some and mostly sold them to American investors. Okay. And so we kind of did that for quite a while. I think the first year we bought and renovated 15 houses in 2014, which is a very, very steep learning curve. We nearly lost our shirts several times, but we managed to scale it up and did, I think, 100 homes, renovated 100 homes in 2019. And then obviously COVID came along after that, which changed a lot of things, or made me panic anyway. And so I ended up just splitting up from my business partners that I'd been with for like 13 years, and just setting up my own kind of smaller shop And by this stage, I was in Tampa. I moved to Tampa in 2017 to 2021.
Okay.
I did 4 years in there between, I was in Madrid before that, and I'm back in Madrid now, but did 4 years in Tampa, gave my kids that American experience. They came back with American accents, and just restarted the business again. We moved back here last summer, and I had to set up a kind of new business, continuing to kind of renovate houses myself, and also started buying a lot of vacant land all over Florida.
So you're actively project managing the renovation of houses that are located in Florida from Madrid.
Yeah, I buy roughly one house every month, and we used to buy a lot more, obviously. So buying one a month is actually pretty easy to manage now that we have so many kind of systems that we've developed over years, and it's quite it's quite scalable. The kind of thing is, you might think it's difficult to do that, but I literally renovate the same house again and again and again. I don't have to make, and I have obviously people that we've been working with for like 8 years over there, the different crews that do everything, and we have a long list of people that I coordinate, roofers, AC guys, flooring guys, property inspectors, title agents, all the rest of it. And literally, like, renovating a kitchen might be 75 different decisions, but I do the exact same kitchen every time. So I really don't need to say anything. It's just, you buy a house and you have a budget to replace the kitchens, the bathrooms, and whatever else. So I do that, and I mostly sell them to hedge funds. There's a lot of big corporate buyers buying houses, accumulating tens of thousands of rental homes all over the US. And in other countries as well. So I mostly sell to those. And then I also buy a lot of vacant land, where I'll buy a 1 acre parcel and just turn around and sell it to like a local person who wants to build a home there. So it's kind of a mixture of things, but we're in 2022, you can do an awful lot remotely that you couldn't have done even 5 years ago.
True. Yeah. Okay, great. And so you've kind of lived in Madrid intermittently for some years. What about your membership of SIBN? Tell us about the history of, why did you, first of all, become involved, and what does SIBN mean to you?
It means a lot. I think I've been a member of SIBN since 2008, so quite a while back. And obviously I moved here in 2006 with, my girlfriend, now wife, and I didn't speak Spanish. I went to classes to learn how to speak Spanish, and I did my best to go out with my wife's friends and met a few buddies around the place playing golf and whatnot, but I really wanted to connect with an expat community as well. You can just socialize a lot more easily, I found, with expats. So I'm not sure how I think I just got onto an Irish embassy mailing list, and they sent an email about some sort of networking event that would have been on. I think Joe Haslam might have been the president at the time. And I just went to it and just sat down with some presentation about something or other. And then afterwards, we went across the street to a bar for a couple of beers, and it was just very nice, just mingling with Spanish people and Irish people and British people. And it was just my way, because I work in such a bubble, Paul. I'm literally just here staring at screens all day, dealing with Americans. I've no interactions with the Spanish business community at all, or even most people go to an office or whatever, and they're having coffees with their colleagues and they're doing stuff after work. I live in a complete bubble. So it was my way of interacting with people in Spain. Like, I'm quite a sociable guy. I enjoy meeting people and talking. So I really enjoyed going to those kind of quarterly SIBN events during the first few years. And then a few years after that, I joined the committee, I think in 2012 or 2013, and helped out with, some bunch of small events and helping organize a ball. And I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of giving back a little bit to the community, but I always got a lot more out of it than I gave to it, just with the friendships you make and the good things you're able to do. And it's just a nice way of spending my time. I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, and look, I must say, so I worked in a corporate environment, say, for 18 of my 22 years in Spain, and actually becoming involved when you're in a corporate environment, as you say, you meet people in the kitchen for a coffee at work, and it's very natural. But actually, when I stopped doing that and set up my own business, a lot like you, I'm looking at a screen a lot of the time, and just having that network where there's, it feels like colleagues, right? That we kind of catch up now and again, both kind of presentially and in these kind of events. So it's, I know I can vouch for the fact that it brings a lot when you're in this kind of world, right?
It does. It makes a big difference to me, even though my Spanish is a lot better now than it was in 2006. I still really enjoy interacting and networking and doing activities with the expat community. And you're anyone who's, a lot of people have lived in Madrid for many years and didn't know anything about the SIBN, and were just really pleasantly surprised when they saw how much stuff was going on, the caliber of the people that are involved in organizing activities and involved in going to the activities, the types of guests we're able to get to the different events. It's a whole mini world, and it's very, very rewarding, and it's a lot of fun. Even if you think I'm not really into going to these events about the environment or whatever else, that's just one part of it. I go because I enjoy meeting the people, building friendships with the people, helping other people. There's new people that come obviously to Madrid all the time, and it's very enjoyable helping those guys find their feet, making some introductions to different people, helping them settle down, recommend different places where they might be able to live or interact or look for a job. So there's a real good kind of support system in there, and anybody that's been involved for a long time will vouch for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember coming to Madrid for the first time all those years ago, and not having that resource. I can't remember SIBN existing back then, but seeing that people come now and they can plug straight into a international network is fabulous. It's great. Okay, good. And so, what do you think what do you think? We're a relatively new committee. We've been in place for about 6 months now. We've had a couple of online events. We had the Paddy's Day picnic, which is really a success. What do you think are the big opportunities for us to, in the future? How do you see us making a contribution?
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of in this transition phase, aren't we, from kind of pre-COVID to post-COVID, where there was a couple of years where you couldn't really organize anything other than some Zoom calls, and there were some really good Zoom calls with some senior people that people did. But the real beating heart of the SIBN has always been the kind of presential events, and I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of those in the next 12 months. We still have some really good webinars coming up, but the presential events are I think what people will get the most out of in terms of being able to build those friendships and doing the networking. Obviously you go to a webinar, you can learn a lot from an interesting person, and you might be able to reach out to them on LinkedIn afterwards. So it's well worth doing. But the presential events are a lot more interesting in terms of networking and meeting people. And we're going to be organizing a lot of those. I mean, there's sometimes you're surprised. You think this person would never agree to come and talk to us. But if you just ask and explain what the SIBN does, you'd be amazed who you get. We've had a lot of high caliber people over the years with, Willie Walsh, the head of British Airways, David McWilliams, famous Irish economist, lots of ministers and other high profile politicians and people who are just delighted to come and talk to an audience in Madrid, if they're in town anyway, and are happy to answer any questions, and are happy to mingle afterwards. And I think we've got great opportunities. The Irish Embassy has always been extremely supportive. And, we have great people involved in Tourism Ireland that are on the committee as well. So, as long as we keep tabs on who's coming over to Madrid, I think we can have some fantastic guests at different events in the next kind of 6-12 months. And some of them are just going to be purely social events too. They're good fun as well. Just organizing a pre-summer kind of mingling networking event where you have a couple of beers and just meet people and relax. They're quite enjoyable too. We do those every year, and there'll be one of those coming up, I'm sure, before the summer holidays. So I don't know, watch this space, I guess, Paul. I mean, I guess there's lots of ideas floating around in the committee. I know that. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, and I think we're planning to get together in June before the summer, a kind of networking event. We have Liam Herrick coming up later this week, who's the executive director of the Irish Council for Civil Liberties. We'd have Leo Clancy was kind enough to come on earlier in the year. So yeah, I completely agree. One of the things I think, unusually enough, that the pandemic and the COVID scenario gave us was the ability to connect with Irish people throughout Spain and not just Madrid. So I think that's one of the things we can take advantage of in terms of, linking with our Irish communities and Spanish Irish communities in Barcelona and other larger urban centers in Spain. So yeah, absolutely, lots of opportunities. Have you any advice for people who are coming to live in Spain from Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because I'm in such a bubble. I mean, best advice is get a good Spanish partner. It's the easiest way to move over. I mean, if you're single, come on over and give it your best shot to meet a good looking Spanish man or Spanish woman. It's by far the easiest way of settling down in a country. To get plugged into their family and friends is an enormous help, but obviously that's not the case for everybody. But obviously if you have a job now, I mean, with the way the world has changed post-COVID, where there's so many possibilities of remote working, I think Spain can be a fantastic destination and to live in itself. You don't necessarily even need to work for a Spanish-based company. I mean, you can choose to live in Spain, which is great culture and history and pretty reasonable cost of living, and you can work for an American company, you can work for a German company, you can set up your own business selling products to whomever you want around the world. So there's Spain is a great place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. I've lived in a lot of places, and different places in America, different places in England, in Ireland. I mean, I love how family friendly Spain is and how important it is for families to spend time together, to have meals together, go on vacations together with extended families, with the grandparents, the kids, even grown up kids in their 20s. And, I like that a lot. There's a lot of good things about living in Spain, in terms of immediate practical help. I mean, join the SIBN, join the SIBN LinkedIn group. I mean, if anybody posts something on LinkedIn saying I'm moving to Madrid in 3 months, can somebody give me advice on where to live or what I need to do to get a residency card or a health insurance card? There's literally hundreds of people on the group that will be happy to help you and point you in the right direction. The same with driver's license. There's obviously a bunch of stuff to do if you're moving countries. You'll get through a lot quicker if you can talk to people that have done it. So don't try and just Google your way through it. I mean, try and meet people that are a few years ahead of you on the journey you're on, and pick their brains, and try and make an effort to not just ask questions on social media, but try and make an effort to just invite somebody out for lunch that and respect and think could help you out. Invite them out to lunch for a menú del día, and pick their brains, and just try and build your friendships like that bit by bit. And I think you'll find that first year or two a lot more easier than it would be otherwise if you're just trying to figure it out yourself and just spend more time on your own. Just get out there and network.
That's great advice. One last question, which is about, you've been through quite a journey career-wise, where you were working with, you said, with partners, you lived and worked in different countries, and then more recently you've taken the plunge and set up your own business, right? So when you're sort of, if you were talking to, say, people who are coming out of university and sort of heading into their first few years of their careers, you've done this since your mid-20s, you've been in this kind of industry. What is your advice and insight into setting up on your own as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy journey, but it's rewarding. I think if you can try and develop resilience, that's a huge help. For me, it's more important than intelligence or luck. Just kind of keep going when other people might give up. And if you're not, well, how do you develop resilience? I mean, obviously, that's something you get with experience, but you'll also get it just by getting a good night's sleep, getting regular exercise, being clear on what your goals are and how you're going to get them, and being, nimble enough to adjust them. You need a healthy attitude toward risk if you're going to set up your own business. And if you don't have that, or if you aren't prepared to take risks, the chances are you're just going to be working for somebody who is. So don't be afraid of taking those risks, especially but not only, but especially if you're young. Just try and surround yourself with ambitious and motivated people. That makes an enormous difference to your possibilities in life. Don't spend all your spare time hanging around with your old buddies who are not interested in setting up a business, or are not interested in taking risks, or don't expect any changes to happen to their lives. Go to those networking events, and you'd be surprised at what you can achieve with that kind of open mind and a positive outlook. And just more practically speaking, I've always, like, I got burned a couple of times and had to close offices and let people go. I'm a big fan of having extremely lean businesses with very, very low or negligible running costs. I mean, there's other companies that need to raise millions just to keep going, and are loss making for 10 years before somebody gets a 10 million buyout. I mean, that's not the norm. I mean, it's a lot easier, and you'll have a much higher probability of success if you can find a business you can set up where you're kind of selling products and services that aren't extremely capital intensive, that don't require you to have a team of 10 or 15 people. And bear in mind, nowadays you've got, I mean, I've got several VAs that are based in the Philippines and other areas that are helping me do all sorts of US real estate related activities. I mean, don't think that you need to hire an office with fancy in a fancy location. I mean, that's not the way to go at all. Start off in your kitchen table with a decent laptop and a solid business plan that doesn't require a lot of capital, and go from there. But most of all, like I just said, get advice from people that have been on a similar path, that are a few years ahead of you. Go to people that have expertise in setting up businesses or running businesses or giving advice to people, and ask them for their advice and their hints and tips on what you've been planning so far, and kind of be willing to adjust, based on their feedback.
Excellent. But look, there was a selfish reason for asking that question, because I've taken on this entrepreneurial journey a couple of years ago, and I think it's great advice you've just given. So fabulous. Well done, Colin. Thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate the conversation.
My pleasure, Paul. Thanks a million.